Hey everybody, it's Allie Edwards, and welcome to our first story play week. This week we are leading up to our Day in the Life documenting day, which is happening this Saturday, April 1st. If you're watching this at any other time, this is a project that you really can do at any time. Our community will be documenting the day together with a very specific lens this time, which is the lens of color. So we're going to use that as our main story prompt, as our main underlying foundation for the story that we're going to tell about our day in the life. On the story play schedule there, you can see today is our kickoff and reason why. Tomorrow, I'm going to come to you with a video about how I'm setting up my project and my album for this one day of documenting. On Wednesday, I'm going to do a quick video for you with some tips on words. Thursday, some tips on taking photos. Friday, I want to do a live Q&A on YouTube, so we'll have a little bit more information about that. And Saturday is the actual documenting day, so we will all embark on this treasure hunt of photo collecting things in our life that are colorful. And then on Sunday, we'll do a show and tell video. Probably, it might be live. I'm not sure yet of how I am going to actually put the whole thing together. So that is the schedule of things that are happening this week. One thing to note, if you are brand new here or as a reminder to people involved in our community, I have an entire archive of Day in the Life posts going back a number of years over on my blog, and I'll link that for you guys below. You may actually be watching this here on the blog, and if so, you can go to the Day in the Life category and you can scroll back and see all of the different projects that I am going to share just a tiny bit about here in the beginning of the video, just to kind of give you an overview of the way that I've approached Day in the Life in the past. There are so many different ways that you can do this. Maybe one of these other ways resonates with you more at this particular point in time. I'm super excited about focusing on color because I love giving a story formula to these kinds of projects. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So Day in the Life, I almost always in the recent past use some sort of a lens. So I'm going to go through some of the ones that we've done for over the last couple of years, starting with the newest ones. So last year I did the lens of gratitude. So I used gratitude as a way to tell the story of my day, right? As I experienced that particular day, I went about it looking for things that I was thankful for and taking photographs of them and then writing up a little bit about them. Prior to that, I used ing words. Those were both in a 4x6 album last year. I do have a YouTube video that has a walkthrough of a bunch of these past videos, and I'll reference that again in a minute. Ing words, listening, enjoying, reading, those were the sorts of things that I used as my story formula for that particular day in the life. Another time in the past, that looks like in 2021, I simply used the word today. Today was the jumping off point. What were all these different things that happened over the course of the day? Today this, today this, today this. And you can see that I simply paired that with 3x4 photos. Those all went into a 9x12 page protector that lived, I think, in a Project Life album or in a just a 9x12 album that I have for stories of that size. Prior to that, I did an around here day in the life. So simply using that as the jumping off point. Around here, this is happening. Around here, this is happening. These stories, with these kinds of stories and this kind of storytelling, I am looking for everyday life, very basic kinds of stories. So in the past, I've done the Day in the Life a couple times over the year. This year, we're just going to do it once. And then we'll also be embarking on Week in the Life starting the week of April 24th. And if you want more information on that, you can find that over on the blog as well. Here are some other past ways that I have approached this. Here's another time that I used the lens of gratitude, using the words thankful for. And this was in a 3x8 album. So over the course of the day, I just decided what were things that I was thankful for. I've also used ing words previously prior to that too. So this one had working, loving, those sorts of things. It's just nice to give it a little bit of structure as you are going about your documenting. As you'll see, as I go back in time, there have been lots of times where I did it hourly also. At 1 o'clock, this was happening, 2 o'clock, this was happening, 3 o'clock, this was happening. That is also a way that you can do it. I've done it in mini albums. I've done it where it's been added into Project Life. Here's another one that was added into a 3x8 album. This In this particular one, I focused on what was the time and then pulling out a little story from that particular point in time. So in that project, or for that day in the life, the photos were really dictating the story that I was telling. So I was living my day, I was taking pictures of things, I was noting the time that I was taking them, and then I was just jotting down little stories about that. Here's one before that as well, again, based on time. So time is another really fun way to organize your content, right? To organize the story that you're telling of your day. So far we've talked about ing words, we've talked about time, we've talked about gratitude or thankful for. Those have all been lenses that we have used or I have used in the past. This year, again, the lens is going to be color, and we're going to talk more about that in just a minute. Here's another one that was thankful. Gratitude for day in the life. I come back to this again and again and again as a storytelling prompt or as a storytelling formula because it has such a positive impact on my life when I'm focusing on the things that I'm thankful for, the things that I'm grateful for. It just is the way that I want to live, and it's memory keeping can help me do that. It makes it visible, right? Makes those things visible. Here's another one that we did. This was in 2018. This one had specific words as jumping off point, not necessarily ing words, but just words like move, close, drive, work, some of those basic things that we all do. I took those words, again, used those as the jumping off point for my storytelling and created little stories that fit along with those particular words. This was a fun one we did a number of years ago too, where we counted things. So how many photos did I take? How many miles were traveled? How many text messages were sent? Again, you can go to my blog to see the full album of these or the full project. These are just individual images from these particular projects. Here's another one that had ing words, right? Loving, watching, eating, going. These, as you may see, if this is your first time ever listening to me talk about memory keeping, I am a great repeater of projects. So when I find something that works for me as a container for my stories, I will do that over and over again because I know that I can rely on those story prompts as a way to organize and get my stories told, right? Because it's easy entry points. I don't have to look at it and be like, how am I going to figure out how to tell this story? The way that we've set up the products, we set them up in a way to be story containers for you to hold those stories, or homes for stories is another way I talk about it. Here's another one that I did. This one looks like, let's see if I can see the date on there. This probably was 2017, maybe 2016, using time. So time was the structure. Time was the lens. That was how I was able to tell the story at that particular time. And that one was in a 12 by 12 album. So that probably got added into Project Life. Here you can see that I did it also via time on this one, the remember this tabs along the edges, and then I just did washi tape along the bottom. So super simple, had a photo, had a little bit of journaling related to the time to talk about some of the basic everyday stuff. My photos are of basic everyday stuff, and then adding the journaling with a little bit of washi tape at the bottom. That was fun also. Here's another one that was time-based. So definitely earlier on in this project, doing lots of time-based things. One thing that's great about the time-based story structure there is that you can set your alarm, right? You can set it to 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. You can set an hourly alarm throughout the course of the day, and that can help prompt you to take a photo and jot down a couple words related to what you are doing at that particular point in time. Here's a couple earlier ones too. This is 2016. In this case, you can see I used a 6 by 12 page protector and used time as the jumping off point. Again, I used a rolling timestamp there, and then I also printed up all my journaling and put it on a 4 by 6 card. And then here's one. This one was actually not day in the life because it's a variety of different days, but I just wanted to show it. I like the repetition of it. It's also one that's kind of fun related to color, some of the different shoes that I had on. And it's just another way to think about a story lens, right? In this case, the lens was taking photos of my shoes. That became the grounding or the repetitive element. And then I was able to talk a little bit more about that, write a little bit more about that. That was a particular point in time where I was doing one little word and I was doing my practice, which was I wanted to walk every day. So documenting that But I also like the in the 12 by 12 album. So just showing that as another way that this could be done. All right. Like I said, there is another video on YouTube that I did last year, which is Day in the Life documenting over the years. I'll put a link for that below so you can check that one out if you'd like to see me actually flip through and show some of the earlier projects like that one right there, which is probably one of the earliest times that I did Day in my life, and that was back in 2009. So I did a collage of photos and then just typed up my journaling and added it in there. All right, so let's talk about the reason why for Day in the Life this time. Why should you do this? Why should you spend your time this coming Saturday in documenting your day through the lens of color? Why participate? There's lots of reasons why. You may have your own reasons too, but really the main reason for me this time is that color is so fun. And I love using a lens to tell the story of my day. And it can be this easy, right? This can be, in this case, we are using, like I said, in this case, we are using the lens of color as the entry point to our storytelling. So this will be a little bit different than, doing it hourly or using ing words. What this really is a treasure hunt. That's really what I want you to think about as you are going about this. And so I went back through my own photo archives just a little bit to pick out some photos that I saw that, that are colorful, or that have something that has a lot of color in it. And as I've been going about my life, even just recently leading up to this, I'm noticing color a lot more. Like, where does color live in my house? Where does color live in my world? Where does color live in the interactions I have with other people? So starting to think about a little bit of mental preparation for where does color already exist. I love this concept of a treasure hunt too. So thinking about taking pictures of colorful things in your life. These obviously are from just random different points in time. A lot of food for me, also a lot of flowers. And that's something that is one of my personal hobbies here, is growing flowers and having flowers in the yard, flowers in the house. So as I looked back through my photos, a lot of the places where those pops of color were happening were related to flowers or food. So I anticipate that coming into play as I document my day coming up. Also just, anything outside, right? The seasonal changes around here. We're coming into spring. We don't have a lot of things blooming right now, which I like the challenge of that, because not only will that make me look around in my house more, it makes me see the things that I own in a different way too, just as a reminder of how powerful color can be, a reminder of how things that are colorful in our lives hold stories. That's one of the things that I've talked about in the past before, how the stuff that we own holds stories, and the colors of the things that we own hold stories too. And so I think it's going to be really fun to see what kinds of things do you take photos of when color is the lens, when color is the driving force for how we are going to tell the story of our day. Mine is probably going to include daffodils if they are still out there. They are blooming right now. I'm recording this with a couple weeks to go before we actually have the documenting week. So we'll see what things pop up. I just grabbed a couple other additional photos here. Again, things in the yard. These are things from the past. Most likely, as I approach this project, and we'll talk a little bit more when we do photo tips later this week, I'm probably going to be taking a lot of close-up photos of things, which is a little bit different than how I generally approach Day in the Life and just generally approach taking photos, where I'm usually including a wider lens, right? I'm wanting to capture the stuff of life around our house. I'm wanting to capture the mess that is real in our lives. But this time I'm kind of anticipating that I will do things that are more a little bit close up, since I am focusing on the color. So where does color exist in my house? Where does color exist in my, day-to-day rhythm? Those are the things that I am going to be looking out for. And even in the clothes that I wear, the clothes that I pick too. And I think that this is interesting, especially if you are somebody that tends to be really black and white, or you own a lot of neutrals, thinking a little bit about where does color exist in your life? If it's not in your clothes, if it's not in your yard, where is color coming from, or where do you see color in your life? And I don't think that anybody should get caught up in that it has to be, all blue for it to go into your blue category, or that it has to be all red to go in the red category. You get to choose, as you're telling this story, what is the dominant color that's coming out of the photos that you are taking. And some of them might be really just colorful images, right? But I love the idea that this is inviting us to pay attention to our lives through the lens of color, right? That's really the invitation that I'm giving out to you today for this project this week. I love the blue sky. I love the light through the leaves. It's just I think this is going to be a really fun way to not only document the story of our day, but also as a creative practice in taking creative pictures. Some of the times I know, even for me, like when I am documenting day in the life or week in the life, it's, I'm wanting to capture all of the different things that are happening in our life. And I'm not necessarily on a color treasure hunt, which is why we're going to do this for the specific day, because I think it is a great practice for us as storytellers, for us as creatives, to have a little art challenge, right? A little creative challenge of what are the colors that I see? What are the colors that exist in my life? What are the colors that make up the rhythm of my day? I think that is a great question to ask yourself. What are the colors that make up the rhythm of my day? And how can I photograph those? And how can I tell that story? What are the colors that make up the rhythm of my day? Let's remember that together. All right. So if you have grabbed our kit, we have a kit that is a great jumping off point for telling this story. If for some reason you missed the kit, we did sell out of those. So we have a digital version available if you'd like to play along in a very similar way. Again, my video tomorrow is going to show you how I have laid this out in a 6x8 album. The base here or the design formula foundation for this particular project is based on these 8 colors. You can obviously include additional colors if you want, or take additional photos of things that are colorful in your life that you are wanting to document. You do not have to be limited by this, but you can also be constrained by this in a really positive way. If this helps you to finish one little day in the life project because you just have to do 8 photos of 8 different colors, that's perfect, right? Lean into that. Take that as the jumping off point. But if you get started on it and you're feeling like, oh my God, I want to include every color under the sun, you can also do that too, right? You can add more to your project. You can add more to your album. But I wanted to just share a couple additional photos based on these 8 color categories. That one I grabbed online. It's just a photo of Skittles all placed together. So it's the kind of thing like, okay, maybe let's say your snack on this particular Saturday is Cheetos, some sort of food, right? Rather than just like putting the Cheetos in the bowl and taking a picture of them, maybe you lay them out, right? Think a little bit about presentation. This is kind of a fun opportunity to do some of that kind of stuff. You can skip that idea altogether and you could just take photos of your stuff, and that's also perfect. But I love the invitation to pay attention to the things that you are experiencing in your life on this particular day and look for the colors that are involved in those experiences. So here's something yellow. This was also an image I just grabbed online. I think the rest of them are going to be ones from my own archives. So there's some red, right? This was back in December. It's kind of easier to find red things in December, depending on what you've got going on in your own house. Pink for the flowers there. And also this is something that you could do, if you decide, I would love to document color. I don't want to do it just on one day. I want to spread it out a little bit, or I want to just use this as a jumping off point for telling stories about things in my house. You can take this in any direction that you want to. I'm going to be doing it as the jumping off point for my day in the life documenting coming up this Saturday. I love it as a lens, right? There's green. It's predominantly green. That one I found was in my photo archives from Halloween a couple years ago. Just delightful, right? A great a great use of that particular photo. I also had fun as I was going back through my pictures looking for colorful photos or photos that could be used as examples to show you guys kind of the direction that I'm heading. Some of them were from travel too. Like this was a wall that I took a picture of. I can't remember where it was, but it was awesome. So I took a picture of it. This was also a door I took a picture of that was in a hotel. So a great example of something black there as well. So my hope today in sharing just a little bit of a jumping off point for you guys is to get you motivated and excited to participate in this project this weekend. And reminder for this one, I'm simply focusing on capturing color, right? I'm not trying to tell the story of every detail of my day through color. I'm going to focus on those 8 specific colors that I listed there. And just I'm going to pay attention to color generally, just letting that dictate how I live this particular day, I think is going to be really interesting. All right, so you're here in the kickoff reason why video, and our reason why is because color is just fun, and documenting can be fun, and having a little creative challenge for ourselves is something that is really fun to do as a community. So you're here for the kickoff reason why. Tomorrow my video is going to be about supplies and how I set up my album for documenting success. I'll see you guys back here tomorrow.